Hello and welcome to the devotion for Tuesday, February 24th, entitled 13 Years. Now, Sunday morning we talked about living the dream that God puts in our heart. And sometimes that will be a big ticket dream. In other words, some start a business or, some ministry or a desire to be in the Olympics. I realize that every once in a while there's big dreams like that. But the other is to have the dream of being the father or being successful in my endeavors, or being a faithful friend, or having a really awesome marriage. There are different dreams and they are different sizes of dreams. But most every dream that God gives us, something that's worth, quite honestly, dreaming about, isn't going to happen easily. Now, one of the most famous stories in all of Scripture is Joseph. And when Joseph is 17 years old, God gives him a dream. And in that dream, God tells him, you are going to be a ruler, one that people bow down to out of respect. Now, he was 17 years old, and I'm sure in a 17-year-old's heart, it was like, man, that is an awesome life. God's going to do this for me. It's going to be great. And he began to dream about that. And he was so excited about it that he goes out and tells his brothers, God gave me this dream that you're going to bow down out of homage and respect to me, your younger brother. Now, they didn't see that as a great dream, but he had this incredible dream. What he did not know was that that dream would not find its reality for 13 years. And those 13 years would be some of the hardest years that a person can live. Half of them in slavery, the other half in prison. And those who have heard me share about that story, I always share that what happened was he had to be prepared to be a ruler. His father pampered and babied him, which is why his brothers were so jealous of him. And he could not rule because he had no gift, he had no skill, he had no talent. God had given him the heart to lead, given him the dream that he would make him a leader, but he had no ability to be a leader. And so God took him out of the pampered situation at his father's house, and first of all, put him in slavery until he could learn to manage an entire plantation. And once he had done that, even though the outward circumstances were he was framed and went to prison, God still was with him and he still believed in the dream. That's the incredible thing. He continued to believe, God has not abandoned me. God has not forsaken me. He told Potiphar's wife when she tried to seduce him, I can't do this and sin against God. Now, many of us would go, God let you be a slave for 6, 7 years. Man, you need to turn your back on God. Forget God. He's forgotten you. And he goes, no, God told me my future. He goes to prison. And for another 6 or 7 years, depending, over that 14-year period. And he learned to manage an entire prison. And when Pharaoh slipped the ring on Joseph's finger and said, manage a country, he was ready. He had learned to manage a household, a plantation. He had learned to manage a prison. He was ready to manage a country. Now, in my own life, I remember crying out to God. I was so unhappy and so miserable in a work circumstance at a church. And I said, God, get me out of here. Get me out of here. And God gave me this word. And it was, you can try to go somewhere else and be a hero, or you can stay here and grow up. And I had a choice. Was I going to try to run and go do something that was easier, or was I going to stay in the hard place and grow up? And I chose to stay in the hard place and grow up. But it was hard. And a year later, I was whining and complaining again. And God put in my heart, I was 32 years old. He said, if your greatest years of ministry were in your 40s, would you stay? And I can do math. That was another 8 years. And I said, God, if I truly knew that my 40s would be my greatest years of ministry, I would stay for another 8. And my attitude again changed. And I just said, I'm learning. God gave me that hope, that dream. Your 40s will be your best years of ministry. God, why? Started in 2000, Easter, about 7 weeks after I turned 40. February 18th, I turned 40. Easter, we launched God, why? And sure enough, the dream that God gave me in my heart was fulfilled. They have been the absolute best years of my ministry. I don't know what God has spoken to you, whether it's a big dream, a small dream, but I know this. If it's a dream worth dreaming about, there's going to have to be some training, some maturity, some discipline, some work. It may take years. I had to wait 8. Joseph, 13. I don't know what the discipline may be in your life, but be prepared to stand for the dream. Don't let anyone steal it. And I'll see you tomorrow.